everybody, and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And we've got the 1942 setup of Axis and Allies Anniversary Edition raring to go. But before we get into that, we are going to just remind you that one of these great games could be yours. All you need to do is come to the Northern Lights Tournament, August 18th to 21st, here in Abbotsford. And we're hosting it right at my school, Robert Bateman Secondary School up in the northeast side. And lots of good games are going to be played. Well, these three games are going to be played, Midway and America. And the classic, I call it classic because I helped make this one, Meltdown, fantastic game. And lots of great prizes, lots of door prizes, lots of handouts, and a trophy will be awarded as well. You'll get your name on the trophy. So go ahead, hilltoppillbox@gmail.com. Get in there early. Let's get in on the ground floor with this great tournament that is going to be an annual event. All right, here we go with the Axis and Allies Anniversary, and we're in the 1942 setup, and you can see the Germans are already into the Soviet Union. It's a good thing they don't get to go first because they could likely take Moscow with some decent dice. And you can see the Japanese have gobbled up the Money Islands and a couple of British territories in Southeast Asia, as well as Wake Island. There you go. Yeah, things are not looking good for the Allies right off the start. And the Japanese go first, then the Soviets, then Germany. So they are going to have a little bit of fun trying to push back the Germans to start with. I have seen these attacks go horribly, though. So the Russians do have to be careful. A little bit more infantry ready to back up Moscow if need be on the non-combat moves. So we'll see how those go. All right. Oh, yes, I was going to mention the roundels, which aren't really round. All right, the markers, national markers. These are nice, thick, acrylic cut markers from Historical Board Gaming. Head on over there. They've got all the different nations represented there. And you can pick those up. They're not expensive at all. I think 75, 80 cents a piece, I think. And buy them in packs of 10. And yeah, they're fantastic. And you can use them with any map. And the reason I like using them is because the roundels are round. And these are rectangular. So they really pop on the map. They're easy to see. And you can very quickly add up the extra money that you've been making, especially if you're the Axis at the beginning here. So lots of fun. So head on over to HPG and pick those up. All right, here we go. Time to start. Japan, what are they going to do? Going to try to increase our hold in the Pacific? Or maybe see if we cannot put some pressure on India. There's a British fleet. It usually dies. We'll find out. All right, round one is in the books. Headed off to round two, and some interesting things are afoot here on the board. We have the Americans were able to come down and took out the remaining Japanese aircraft carrier and one fighter, but they lost a sub doing it. Even though they could take a hit on the battleship, the Japanese forces were able to get 2 hits. So that was not so great for the Americans. Japanese, though, are down to 1 battleship in the Pacific. That's all they've got. They decided to put their money into transports and a factory down here in French Indochina. They were able to dispatch the British fleet here with the loss of a couple of aircraft. They lost 2 fighters here. Or no, 1 fighter, pardon me, and then 1 battleship hit. The British built an industrial complex in India because there really is nothing within, well, it's going to take at least 2 turns to get things into position. And I figured, I think this might be the game to do this. So the way the Japanese initial turn went, and the fact that they decided to go north instead of south. So they took out the Soviets up here. Not sure if they're going to do much more up there. Not much hitting power, but that's where we ended up. The Soviets backed off. They got 6 forces in Yakut ready to come back and stir the pot if necessary. The Chinese were able to put on 3 infantry this turn. You can see that the Flying Tigers and the two guys with them are destroyed, but they were able to kill a couple of Japanese infantry on the way out. Burma's empty, and the British were thinking of taking it, but decided against it. I'm not really sure why. I remember why now. We're not wanting to really lose stuff at all down here. As I went through the strategy of what the British are going to do to try to keep India, the factory was a given, but it was also, we're not going to throw things away. Now, moving an infantry to Burma would take that. That'd be $2, and he can't be attacked by any ground forces, but the Japanese may just try to kill it with their fighters just because, right? And then you've just lost another infantry to protect Burma. And as we know, in Anniversary, it can come down to 1 or 2 different units here in India when Japan finally assails it. There's the Chinese, of course, doing well. Over here in Africa, yes, the Italians were able to wrest control of Egypt away from the British Empire, which is also now able to put on some pressure onto India via their tanks. Italy will likely build an industrial complex here next turn and start pumping stuff out. But that's not a for sure. But they did have a little bit of good news this turn. The Germans came down here with 2 subs, and they took out a destroyer and a cruiser for the cost of 1 sub. Then the British came down with a destroyer and 2 bombers and a bomber, and 2 fighters, and they got no hits. But the sub got a hit on a 1 and sank the destroyer, of course, because it can't shoot a plane, so all the aircraft had to retreat. And I thought, well, I have a destroyer and some transports for the Americans. I could come over here and attack it and probably sink it with the help of the bomber, but then I'm within range with 1 destroyer only sitting there and a bomber and a fighter in range for the Germans to come take it out. To say nothing of the Italians who were still sitting there, who could have probably sent a cruiser over should the need have arisen. And I didn't want to start throwing away American transports here, because we are definitely doing a kill Germany first strategy today, and we'll see how that goes. We did try a strategy of bombing Berlin, and you can see there's only 1 American bomber left on this side of the board because, yeah, they shot it down. First round shoot down. That's pretty annoying. And the Germans had some more success up here in Karelia. They were able to take that for the loss of 4 guys. So pretty good. They killed 6 guys and a fighter for the loss of 4. They had a couple of fighters, they had the bomber, and then they had the bombard here, all pouring into Leningrad. So it was pretty tough news for the Soviets. The rest of the Eastern Front, little status quo here, but there was some battling. Belarusia fell to the Soviets, as did Ukraine, as did Eastern Ukraine. And that's where I decided to punch in. There were 2 tanks sitting there. That was it. So I decided we're going to go there, and they both missed. So these East Polish troops came in and were able to deal the final blow against 2 Soviet tank divisions. So I don't think they had the T-34s. They had some other early war tanks, I think. We know Italy's there. So the British also built a couple destroyers because the Germans built a couple of subs. Yes, so essentially as the Germans, what I'm wanting to do, I'm probably going to keep building some subs here. When they come to land in France, there will be some aircraft, but also a good amount of subs that are able to strike out and maybe sink a whole bunch of Allied shipping. Not sure if that'll actually work that way, but we're going to give it a whirl. And the Italian fleet is still intact after round 1, which is a nice treat. And that's pretty much it for round 1. So some non-typical or atypical happenings and goings on, and others going pretty well. But the Germans and the Japanese are both sitting on some pretty good cash right now, and the Americans only got 1 bonus, so the Germans and Japanese are actually pretty much on par with America right now. Britain is down to $29 and that is all they're going to be getting, or less. Actually, they'll get that much this turn, but likely not more. I might go into Burma, maybe, but there's going to be 2 tanks sitting there at the end of this next turn, so yeah, we might go in there. I just I don't like throwing anything away when it comes to India. They'll be building 3 tanks this turn to try to match what the Japanese are doing, but then that's going to be pulling resources away from up here in Britain. And as we know, in this version, tanks are only 5, so that's only $15 here, but that's more than half their economy. Whereas the $10 in tanks the Japanese are going to spend is less than a quarter of their economy, more like 20%. So, but China's strong. All right, round 2 coming up, folks. We'll see what we see. All right, round 3. Things are really heating up here, folks, as we'll take a look at the American disposition here in the Pacific. Built a carrier, give these fighters something to land on, and another bomber is over here. So looking to continue to put some pressure on the Japanese if they want to move out. There was really nowhere safe for this fleet to go. The British took this. I think last turn I might have removed a Japanese unit from here prior to the battle. But the British came in and fought and won that. But as you can see, we've got the Japanese with a battleship, sub 2 destroyers. And it can reach, obviously, anywhere within 2. So we didn't want to go north. And over here, we have a battleship and a carrier and a bomber that can reach out here. So we didn't want to, I was thinking of coming over here or here, but the $4 swing probably isn't worth losing many IPCs worth of stuff at this point. But since we're kind of doing a kill Germany first, not 100% of course, but a kill Germany first theme, didn't really have a lot of money to spend on boats in the Pacific this round. As we do look over here, though, the British were able to hold on to India. Now, it was mutually assured destruction, essentially. Everything died, and the British built 3 shiny new tanks. But everything died. The Japanese lost 4 fighters, 1 bomber, 2 tanks, 2 men, and 2 artillery. If memory serves, maybe it was 3 men, 1 artillery. And the British lost their 4 men and 3 tanks and a fighter. So they lost everything as well. So probably going to fall this turn because we can have the Japanese bring in 6 units to their 3. But again, on paper, they should have won that battle. But the British rolled really, really well on round 1, getting, I think, 6 hits on round 1. That really took the wind out of the sails. Up here, Japanese cautiously advancing into Chinese territory, and the Chinese deciding to come out and kind of ruin the party a little bit, put some pressure on the Japanese. Up here, the Japanese had gone into Stanovoy Sherbet, and the Soviets, of course, came down from the Soviet Far East to take that. This is probably going to be a little bit of trade going on and off for a little while. But I know you're all wondering what happened in Moscow. Well, Moscow fell. Yes, it fell. And the British had to come down and take it. There was only 1 German tank left, but they didn't have to lose any air power. So that was pretty handy. But then the British came down and took it. And so the Soviets will be able to load some stuff into there. Not much. They've got 4 infantry that they can load in there, and likely put a blocker in Belarusia because there's a lot of German air power there. You can see the Italians came into the Caucasus with 8 units and 3 bombards, and they remain with 8 units. Yes, the 5 Soviet infantry, nada, didn't get a single hit. So Moscow will likely fall again unless the British can somehow get more stuff in there. Not likely. Not likely in time. and it could be Italy in control of Moscow. So the Germans collected the extra $20 and they'll be able to put that into play. They do have to repair $4 on the factory and built a couple more subs, of course. So lots and lots of subs. The Americans, though, have shown up in Norway and are looking to begin their adventure up there. The Germans do have to be a little cautious, though, because if Moscow is Moscow is taken, and if Karelia falls and the British take it back, that could turn into a British factory. So you have to be a little cautious there. But things all of a sudden are looking pretty good for the Axis, except in Africa here. The Americans have sent 4 units into Libya, and they've got another 4 in Morocco, Algeria, and a little bit of a shuck going on. Another 4 units likely coming over next turn. Germans have put out a blocker here to prevent an American landing in Rome. So, because the whole Italian fleet was sitting here in 14 and moved over here, of course, thinking they would need the bombards, but they really did not. So some good air power here for the Axis, and not much that the Allies can do to take care of that. That'd be a sweet thing to be able to hit if they could, but likely won't be able to. British brought 4 more infantry up to Karelia, trying to hold on to that. I don't think the Germans are going to bother trying to take it back this turn. They could. They've got 6 ground units that can make it, plus 2 more, 7, 8. So that might be worth. But then the British can just shuck another 4 units back to attack it again. Yeah. Lots of great ideas, lots of great opportunities. So as you can see, the Axis had some good fortune here, but the Axis had some bad fortune here. And with the Pacific War starting to get a little interesting, the Axis do have to get a move on, though. Take care of these Chinese before they get a little too persnickety. And yeah, I think Germany is likely going to bulk up, get a bunch of defensive units going here right now, because the Soviets likely will not be building any more units. I think Italy will likely take Moscow, so the Germans will probably bulk up here and then push out and take care of things the only way they know how. All right, that's it for round 3. Round 4 coming up. Well, round 4 was just that kind of round. Yeah, things did not go well for the Allies at all. They did not have success anywhere. So we're going to walk you through it. This was the last-ditch effort to go throw some damage on the Berlin factory, and boom. And I decided at that point, well, that's it. So we're going to start in the Pacific here. So the Americans have come over here to take that. Of course, it's going to die right away because the Japanese took Calcutta, still have units left, and there's no natural enemies here, so they can turn around with these 3 units, pick up another tank here, pick up a bunch of stuff here, come down here and take the East Indies. So it really is just an exercise in futility by the Americans. The Chinese are in full retreat now, as the Japanese, like I say, have no natural enemies. They've loaded up these 3 transports here and brought down 6 units. They built up some more air power, and they are sitting on quite a stack of cash. It's in the 50s. The Americans came and took Wake Island, a bit of a token, and the Japanese, of course, could come down and destroy this fleet and still have enough left over for a nice vacation somewhere. The Soviet Union is down to buddy there, 3 buddies there, but the Italians came in and they needed 5 hits and got 5 hits on the first round. Now, they did bring in a fighter that got shot down, and I thought, oh, hey, maybe they'll be able to... No, it didn't work. So they have lost Moscow for the second time, and the $20 went to the Italians. And the Germans took Karelia back, only losing a couple of guys doing it. So there are no more foreign troops on Soviet soil, so they'd get their bonus if they were collecting money. But these three boys don't have any hope of getting into Moscow. So that's over. The Americans did have 4 units here ready to surge into Egypt, and they all got killed by a landing by the Italians. They lost all their stuff as well, so it was just empty. And so the Americans just moved guys down through North Africa and shuttled over some more guys. I didn't even bother putting the American build on. It just wasn't even worth it. Let's take a look at France and Germany. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. And they also have all these subs. They had $75 last turn. So with the $75, they built, 10 units in, was it 10 units or 8 units in Germany? 9 units. So they built 6 tanks. They built, I forget exactly what they built, but they saved $15. It was 6 tanks and 3 fighters to go along with the fighters that they brought here. They killed the British tank in eastern Ukraine as they flew by, but the British tank did kill one of the fighters. But then the Germans built 3 more fighters. They got 6 fighters and 2 bombers in Germany and a whole whack of subs. So any fleet that comes near is just going to get schmulched. So a little anticlimactic there. Only got to round 4. Probably could play another round or 2, but I think the writing is on the wall here. Not much hope at all. There's no chance that the Allies are going to be taking back any of this stuff anytime soon. And Germany and Italy can now focus everything this direction. So I'd say probably in 4 rounds there'd be a landing in Washington, or at least the threat of it, as there's nothing else for them to spend their money on. The Italians right now are sitting at $33. 33, yeah, you heard that correct. So they are doing quite well, and that number is only going to go up as they keep gobbling up the Africa, and they'll take back the North African stuff here. They'll grab a few more out of the Soviet Union while they're at it. So yeah, it's all over but the crying. But thanks for watching, folks, and hey, don't forget to contact me, hilltoppillbucks@gmail.com, and get into the registration queue for the Northern Lights tournaments. Yes, lots of great prizes, lots of great handouts. You're going to leave for home with lots of stuff, courtesy of Historical Board Gaming, Sky Marshall, and yours truly, Hilltop Pillbox. All right, till the next time, folks, hug your loved ones, thank your friends for playing, and as we always say, may those dice, courtesy of Triple Crown, be with you.